We want convenience. We want that digital ease, but we also want connection. And that way, we just want lifelong customers, and that they know that we're here to answer questions or to be a liaison between them and their vet.
Hi there, food enthusiasts. It's Chris Rutkowski here again. Welcome you back to the FutureFoodCast, where we're interviewing thought leaders in today's food industry to find out about the trends and technology that are shaping the future of food. I'm really excited to have with us today Laura Simonson from Virchew, and has a really great story, really important product, because we're not only here to talk about the food trends for humans, but also for non-humans as well. Welcome to the show today, Laura.
Thank you very much, Chris. I'm excited.
Excellent. Well, I like to start these podcasts. We're learning a little bit from you. Where did you come from? And what led you to this point of starting this exciting company before we get into what the company really does?
Right. Originally from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. So I was a prairie girl, growing up on the typical prairie lifestyle, prairie diet, but had a lot of animals when we were young. And I spent a lot of time at the farm. Our relatives had farms. So we'd go out, during summer holidays. And there was one year that I can recall that made the big impact sort of for me to be here today. And I had gone into the barn, and my cousin was, doing whatever he was doing with all the animals in the barn. And I saw this little pig that had been, apparently he was beat up by a sow. And I asked, can I give the pig, put the medicine on the pig? His leg was really bad. And can I give him medicine? He goes, sure, yeah. So during the time that I'm there, I ended up bringing this beautiful little pig back to health. And I realized when I left that summer that I had brought that pig back to health. And of course, he had gone to market. And it was one of those leaps when I'm, quite young. And I realized that I was actually a part of something that I didn't, the cognitive, dissonance that we have. I'm loving bacon at the same time, helping this little pig. And I'd call him in every morning, and I had a unique name. I called him Piggy. And he would come running in, and the other ones would be looking around, and I'd feed him the best slop. And it was from that time and forward, and having animals and being in health and fitness myself. I was a bodybuilder and an athlete, loved food. And I felt it was our way, our medicine. And so that's where I started. And I got to Calgary. I moved away to the bigger city and spent 20 years in Calgary. And that's where I realized that I had I'm very unemployable. I'm an entrepreneur. I always have been at heart. And I saw that there was always more opportunity. I'd be at the Calgary Chamber of Commerce, and I would, want to explore other ideas to go outside of the norm. And I started to do things like that I realized I'm an entrepreneur and went that route rather than staying in real estate. I went and started my own health and wellness fitness studio in Calgary. And it was at that time that I had my dog. I knew I wanted to have a dog as I was in Calgary and a single gal, and I wanted to have my border collie. That was always my dream dog, was a border collie. I was a runner. I lived on the river, the beautiful Bow River. And I got Shanty, who was this gorgeous border collie. And I knew that at the time, I didn't want to give her meat. I had become a vegetarian. So I ended up asking a good friend of mine who was a veterinarian in Calgary. I said, what do you think? And this is, early 2000s. And she said, well, of course, we have vegetarian food on our shelves because many dogs, can't actually have a lot of animal protein. And so we do have to have an alternative product. So I knew at that time, I decided to go down that road. I cooked all the food. I know you were talking earlier, Chris, about cooking for your cats. And I started to do that. And I realized that as I was doing that, it hit that I really, really wanted to be involved with the health and wellness of dogs. And so that was the beginning.
Excellent. Well, I think there's a number of trends that have only been growing now: plant-based, vegetarianism, veganism, combined with your own sort of formative experiences. And, I guess your experience as an athlete and really knowing how to eat to improve performance. But all that seems to have coalesced for you into this business that you have, Virchew. And I'd love to hear more about it. How did it get started? Tell us about your products.
Yeah, so basically the part about getting started, we had moved to Vancouver. So I met my partner, Gord. He was an equal entrepreneur. We were both, all of our whole lives unemployable. And I was in Whole Foods here in West Van, and this is 2009. And I was helping a girlfriend with a demo. She was doing matcha tea. She was one of these gals that's way ahead of the world in matcha, by the way. A really, really good interview, perhaps. So anyways, I was taking a break. I looked down the dog food aisle and I went, it's not there. And it still isn't there, by the way. Whole Foods still does not have a vegetarian option on the shelves. And I thought, interesting, this is potentially, because I was looking, I knew it was time for me. After we moved here, we were looking for something that would be in the food space. And I had my dog, who was a vegetarian dog for several years by then. And so I went to Gord and I said, it's not happening. I think we need to really look at this. And he did his own research. He's definitely one of those very, very, skeptical at first, wanted to make sure that there was something, that this was the real deal. He saw that our dog was thriving on vegan food, but wanted to make sure. Anyways, so we knew at that point that, he did the research and we went, there's no doubt the market's coming, but there was also something missing. And that was not only on Whole Foods shelves, it's missing in the veterinary industry. So that's what we made a choice, to marry the market that's already coming, which today is more referred to plant-based. We were calling it vegan vegetarian, and also the veterinary space. It's a big opportunity that no one that we can see is working with it.
Right. And that's a great approach. I think any of us who have pets know that you go into the veterinarian's office and they're typically pushing certain brands. And we all know the one that starts with an H, and also a great product. But like you said, it's really not hitting what the consumers want these days, especially those like yourself that have made that step to plant-based food.
It's the kibble was never made for health. It's been made for convenience. And so we do know that there are definitely issues just with the fact that it's a dry food, right?
Well, tell us a little bit about the products you have. I've gone through your website and looked at that. And you have a bit of a range in there. Tell us why you have those products and how they're being received in your market.
We knew that we wanted to have a product that was obviously not kibble. And so it took, we did start the concept here, like I said, in 2009. We spent a lot of time researching, going through the idea of having a wet food and how would we package it? How would we, because we have a direct model, right? It's a vertical model. So we research, we create, we deliver, and, sell and deliver. And so we knew we didn't have to have the preservatives. The part would be how long could we have a bit of a shelf life for them at home? So would we have a frozen food? Would we have a 50% moisture food and nougats, that kind of thing. So we went through a lot of that, and we were working with the Saskatchewan Food Development Center, which is the largest in Canada. And the president there was actually a past employee of Gord's, who's my partner. And we went through the process of talking to the food scientist there and doing some shelf life on some wet foods. And she started to talk about dry blends, and that she was bringing in the powders to create the food. And, we had, till that point, we're going to make it all with fresh food,
right.
Instead of a fresh kitchen. And I sat for a moment and I realized that during the time that we were in the process of developing this concept, the food market for people was advancing, so that the supplies and the way that foods were coming was changing very quickly. And I went, whoa, and it just hit. We've got an opportunity here to use dried products, make the blend. Obviously, we work with the veterinary board certified veterinary nutritionist is the gold standard in the pet industry. So when you work with those nutritionists, we are able to create our own balanced, our own custom supplement, which is fully vegan. And we ensure that the dogs are getting everything that they need based on the AFCO standards, of course. We've even surpassed that because we wanted to be sure that our foods are really high quality, of course. So it ended up that we got to a place where we didn't need kibble. We didn't need a wet product. We have a dry product. And now we're moving on to building new formulations. Our first formulation is getting rave reviews from the dogs. So far, the feedback, the palatability is very high. I would say probably 98% of the dogs are just loving it, over some of them now over a year. And so we're in the process of developing more for what the veterinarians are asking for. And so we're in the process of that. And we also have chews and treats, which are made from the same ingredients as our food. So basically the love cookies are made of the same ingredients that's in our love bowl, which is our first product. So that way, if somebody's in a feeding trial, because we're creating nutrition programs, we had done feeding trials here with one of our shareholder vets. We have in total 12 shareholder veterinarians. There was an owner here of one of the big clinics here, and we did feeding trials to go through the process of palatability and learning a bit about vegetarian foods that they needed to learn more than we did. And so now we're turning that into nutrition programs. So that's building another part of maybe some of the questions for later.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, it sounds like you made this discovery of essentially how you're going of the product that you're going to provide, essentially by taking what you've learned from the human food industry and what you were seeing there and saying, this can work for animals also, but that trend is just as good for animals in this case as it is for the humans.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I in fact, I'm a real foodie. I used to take literally a suitcase of vegetarian times and cookbooks back in the early 90s on my trips. That was what I was always researching. So for years and years, I've been vegetarian, vegan now, but of course vegetarian I started in 1990. And I just knew that, yes, everything that we're seeing, like if you were to say the dry powders that are in a Vega container, right? So the owner then, Charles, who owned Vega, and we had met with him one time, and I started to think about this the last few weeks. I went, basically, you just put a bunch of beautiful powders together and you've got yourself a product, but you just package it.
Right.
There's a lot of simplicity. Now, of course, it's got to be high quality products. It's got to be balanced for us in the food world for dogs. But it's a really, really beautiful way to make sure these dogs are getting a wet food. So you have to hydrate that dry food. So yes.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, and you've started touching on also something that is clearly important to you, but will also is important to customers, which is the quality of those products and being able to understand, are you sourcing good products, raw materials, and how do you do that? But how do you both communicate that to yourself to making sure you're confident in that? And then how do you think about communicating that to customers, essentially tracking, tracing food from farm all the way down to the dog's bowl?
Right. Those are good questions because, of course, that's not a natural thing in the dog food industry, is it? In fact, we wouldn't want to know where most of those products are coming from. And in our case, our goal was first and foremost, non-GMO first and foremost, because organic is difficult in some of the things that we need to get for our foods. The next thing was that we just lost my train of thought here for a moment, Chris. Hang on. So ask the question again, because I'm just gone off. So I think an important point and an important opportunity that your product has is because you put so much work into understanding where the raw materials come from. One, how do you get comfortable that you're getting what you expect? Then how do you make your customers understand that they're getting the best quality raw materials that goes into the product they're buying from you? Excellent. Okay, so on the first part, we knew we wanted to get the non-GMO. The next would be that it's got to be from North America. And because in some cases, just availability with regards to competing now with some of the food, the human food, is we want to be sure that. So the good news is, for the most part, our products such as hemp, pea proteins are very much a Canadian product. So we can, we're able to source all of that very easily. Spinach, North American non-GMO, potatoes, North American non-GMO. We have a product called golden algae. Algae is actually grown on land. So I think it's also one of our big future food, which we're learning more and more about, algal oil or, algae oil. We need a whole food product, so therefore we had to have everything dry. Nothing is wet in our product. It actually gives a really, really high palatability to our food because it's fishy. And also it has a high EPA, DHA, which is really important for the dogs that, with regards to the research they're doing. So anyways, that we know we're able to source everything from North America. Our goal is to get as much as possible from Canada so that we're literally just bringing in containers of it, having it near our production facility, and we can, go from there. So we know the farmers, actually, the hemp farmers. Gord, again, have a background from Saskatchewan. He was also a farmer, and he, ironically, back in the 1980s, he owned a meat production company. And so his background with regards to knowing where we're sourcing from, understanding the things he doesn't have to deal with now, which is back then was when listeria came along and E. coli, was a big issue in his meat production problem. So that is really, we know we have lots of experience with that. Plus we just hired a food engineer who has joined our team. She also comes with a operations background. So we've got, where she's working on where the sourcing of our products as well. Most people that are purchasing our foods now are definitely plant-based vegan, and they're very interested in where it's from. And so we just share the same information as we are with you. And then the more on the veterinarian side, we don't get many questions from many of the veterinarian clients so far. It's more just, they just want to know that the food is healthy and that we are, preparing it here and they can see. Yeah.
Okay. So you've got a ready-made target audience out there, target customers in the plant-based and those who are also truly vegetarian and vegan. How do you see opportunities, I guess, in helping them to better understand the efforts that you make to get the best quality food? Because right now they know you, they trust you, and that will continue. But if somebody maybe doesn't know you and I know it's maybe not on the shelves in food stores, at least not yet, how do they know if it's any better than Purina Puppy Chow over here, other than marketing and branding? What have you looked at that might help them understand that better?
Well, it's, right now, because we're doing local, so we made a choice to only launch in the greater Vancouver area at this time so that we can really get to know our customers, number one. When they first do ask, for the most part, most of them aren't even asking that question, Chris, but it's, it's a good one. But most of them just say, oh, well, you're here in Vancouver. We can literally open up the door at the back here and I could show you, all of the foods. We don't have to go through any part of a rendering area of our plant, of our production area. So right here, because Virchew HQ is right here in Vancouver, we've already got an automatic trust base because people are already referring and stating, well, this is just pure food. It's just, and we have it, listed. Of course, we have to list all of our ingredients very clearly on our boxes and packaging so that people can see where, what it is. So once they start to read, oh, it's hemp and pea protein and potatoes and oats and spinach and carrots, and they go, oh, that's food I can put in my smoothie. It's like, yeah, absolutely, So far, it hasn't become that question because we're not a meat-based product. So therefore, a lot of they're not comparing it necessarily to the meat-based product, right? Yeah.
Now we're seeing, just as an aside, a number of interesting things in this area, and maybe we can come back to in a future podcast. But for example, hopefully in the next week or two, I'll be talking to a brewer here in Alberta, and they actually do track and trace on their grains coming in. So the same, and they report that. You can actually apparently scan QR codes to see where things come from. Right. And the same thing could be possible, certainly, on your products.
It could. We'd have to become, we do want to go to the level of human certified, say human grade, but, certified, because then we'd need to go through that process. Right. Because there are algae isn't a human in the form of the powder yet. It's not in a human form, human certified. So therefore, otherwise we would be able to call it all human ingredients. Right. And then from there be able to say, okay, now we can do like you're saying, could we track it? I believe it's the future because it's becoming more available for, like you just talked about, it's becoming more available for the human food. So there's no reason why we wouldn't be able to do that. But again, we'd have to,
Yeah, well, as you say, it is becoming the future. And as soon as it's out there, and these things tend to get adopted fairly quickly. Well, we've seen a lot of your innovation that I think sort of came almost by surprise to you as well on the product side. But, through the fun and experiences we've all had around the world over the last couple of years, said facetiously, there's been a lot of innovation on the sales and marketing channels as well, and especially e-commerce and how companies are not only reaching their consumers for advertising, letting them know about the product, but how are they getting the product to them? And I wonder if you could tell us a bit about, for your product, what are you seeing in the technology developments that's helping you get to your customers today?
Well, essentially, I mean, it's pretty, like you said, COVID, of course, has just caused it's been really good for us. We were already, we were already in the process of doing our deliveries when COVID started, or just had started. And we see that, and it's an interesting thing, like e-commerce to me, Chris, has to be married with connection. And that human connection, which also is dog connection, is what we're seeing is that we're marrying. How do we do the best of both? Because, using an app like we have on Shopify for our orders, you can use the Easy Routes map, and it's, how you can GPS and use it for our deliveries, right? Those are the things that are most important for us, is just to make sure our delivery people can get to people on time. And because sometimes we're actually meeting new customers, getting pictures with their dog in the containers, like our beautiful red containers here. They're sitting next to them with their little handwritten notes. So what we're doing is we're doing our best to marry it. Those kind of things for e-commerce for us is, and direct, deliver direct, is so good for us, because we want that direct relationship here in Vancouver. We're testing to see what happens. What do people want? Do they want us to follow up more by phone? Do they want us to follow up by text? Do they want us to follow up by email? So we're in the process of getting that feedback from our year customers. We had a very special club that we started last fall, and now we're able to get that information from them. But what we definitely see is that and I want the marriage between the two things, that we want convenience, we want that digital ease, but we also want connection. And that way, we just want lifelong customers, and that they know that we're here to answer questions or to be a liaison between them and their vet, which is, a big part of what we're building here as well, Chris. And that's another part of the story.
Right.
So, I see it as so important in so many levels with e-commerce, but right now this direct delivery is our most important part of that, where we can literally, know exactly where they live, their phone numbers, and they're not a customer buying off the shelf, so we know them. Yeah. And so that connection is crucial for our success at this point.
Yeah, and I've heard that from quite a number of entrepreneurs over the last several weeks, and it's as you described, that connection, and others have also described it as authenticity. And it's, how do you communicate that authenticity electronically versus face-to-face? That seems to be the challenge. The entrepreneurs are out there like yourself, very, very good at communicating directly with a consumer. How do you see being able to translate that using technology into, if you will, remotely communicating the authenticity that you have with your products?
Right. And this is an example of this, actually, Chris, so people can hear me or possibly see more of. Right. I've been behind the scenes a lot, so I haven't been out doing this kind of thing. And I just had a radio interview on Friday, and now it's starting to come because we're getting to be more well known in Vancouver. And I'm looking forward to be able to convey. I'm an event person. When I was living in Calgary, that was my gig. I had connection events, networking events. I was always leading all kinds of networking groups. And I saw again that that's the point that we can use here, where we can have online. I launched it doing Zoom. So I had a bunch of people come on that were following us for, in some cases, a few years. They come on, they're excited, they want to be one of our first customers. And so we had a Zoom meeting, then we started to deliver. I met everybody in person, and it just went great from there. So Zoom is definitely, or having that opportunity to be able to talk to people and share the story. Then now having the Virchew shop, the idea was, it's a big space. The idea was to be able to have events so that people can come in and learn about plant-based foods for dogs. People can come and meet our veterinarians who can, back up what we're doing on the credibility, as well as what the nutritional needs are for the dogs. And so that was a big part. And we can do pop-ups. So we can video them, we can video a pop-up, we can put that on. So those are the kind of things that we're moving towards as we're building now and having our Virchew shop and our Virchew HQ here.
Yeah, well, there's so many media channels these days. It's almost impossible to cover all of them, especially as an entrepreneur. But what do you see as maybe, if you look out 2-3 years, what do you see as maybe the key channels from a technical point of view that are helping you to get to your customers, because you're going to be way too busy to meet them all face to face?
Absolutely. It's interesting. I didn't know how well I've been so surprised by Instagram. I've been really surprised by social media. Instagram's probably been the most where we received most of referrals from, but it's because somebody has tagged us or talked about us. So it's been that word of mouth referral. We've had a few where they've searched looking for plant-based foods, vegan foods for dogs in Vancouver, or skin issues, and they find us via, they'll look, Instagram. So it's interesting. So Instagram seems to be, and I think there's no reason why that wouldn't continue. And there's no reason why we wouldn't continue to see the referrals happening, because they're happening now. So if I'm getting a good result, I know I met the team, I've been to Virchew HQ, or I saw somebody talk about it that I trust, so it's just going to be that sort of thing, Chris. I think, the other things is, again, I'm such a connection person that for me, how am I able to use any of this technology to connect? And my thing is like this, or that, we have events where they can be filmed and they can see what's going on with all of our team. But, to be able, right now, what's working seems to be working, Facebook isn't it anymore. Right. Or Facebook groups are good. It's okay. But Facebook isn't it anymore, which I was surprised by.
Interesting.
It's not for us yet anyways, but.
Yeah. Well, it'd almost be, it'd be interesting if somebody could view your product, scan a code on it, and get a clip of your radio show or something like that.
Right.
That brings the authenticity forward.
And we can do that. The good news is we can change any of our, literally anything that I need to put on these boxes, I'm delivering it direct, right? Yep. So we can have on it QR code, see our latest interview. We can do it every month because we pretty much deliver monthly or every 6 weeks.
Right.
Okay. So anything that we have business to business partners. We can put the human treats, I call them. So we give chocolates, all vegan chocolates, so we have all of these opportunities. A veterinarian coupon. So that's the cool thing about having that direct, and you can use codes and you can follow those codes and find out where did they come from. We can track, the person got a sample, they got a free month. We offer a free month. Right. Then from there, we can track and see how long did they stay on. So the codes and that sort of thing, definitely a big part of the knowing, right? Gives you an idea there.
Well, it's really exciting to see what Virchew's done in bringing together almost the epiphany you've had for how to, prepare the product and to avoid, the typical kibble format, but bring a fresh food, but also at the same time marrying up technology that gets the product out there through e-commerce and through your media channels. And it looks like it has a great future. I know that as soon as I'm able to get a dog, I will certainly be interested in getting
I'll definitely send you the samples right away.
What do you see, when you look forward 1 or 2 years, what do you think is going to be the main thing that your customers, your investors, the public's looking at Virchew and saying, that's why they're special. This is what they do that's amazing.
I appreciate that question because it's, I see this and I felt like now I'm able to say being here a few blocks down is the Tesla gallery. 3 blocks this way is Chip Wilson, who was the founder of Lululemon. We're literally in the middle of where Vancouver type culture can really support. What I felt for Virchew and what we've wanted to produce, and now we're here and getting closer to being to describe it, that we are that, see us as a Tesla of, and I mean that with a lot of honoring and humility, because that's a huge unicorn, if you will, or a moonshot that Elon Musk has created and that sort of thing. But there is an opportunity here for Virchew to do extremely well. That we have this type of facility backing up the plant-based research for dogs. People can see that we can have a school tour where people can come through and see how their dog food is made. You can't do that in another dog food company that's animal-based.
Right.
We can have that sort of real clean, clear, use technology in a way to understand foods that can make it better for our dogs, use technology in a way that can make it better to communicate. But our goal is that we can literally be a very, very strong, powerful change company. Yeah. That when we do well, when our investors do well, we have over 70 investors, most of them are vegan. When they do well, and that's our goal, when they do well with us, they will do good things with their money.
Yes.
They will do good things with their resources, which we have seen so far. And so to me, to have an impact, not just as a public company certainly could be the option, but to have our shareholders benefit hugely, they will make a difference.
Yeah. Well, this is a great trend that I'm seeing more of, and also doing what I can to contribute to, which is having people or seeing people be very financially successful for doing the right thing. Yeah. We're having sustainable products and promoting sustainable practices. And I definitely want to thank you for that. And one of the levers that you seem to have with your product is working with the veterinary industry. And I'm curious if you can tell us more about how working with veterinarians is helping you to get a very exciting product out there through that channel, through the veterinarian offices.
Awesome, thanks. This is a good question, and this is one that's so important for the distinction. If you were to say, Chris, 20, 30 years ago, when the nutritional trends, we started to see this health food trend coming, and take that hat of the human world and what's happened and put it on the dog industry. Okay, specific for us would be the dog industry. And if you were to think natural foods, healthy foods, we're transferring that same humanization, right? So with regards to the veterinarians, they are our doctors for the dogs. They are the ones that, same thing with regards to the human world, usually medical doctors are not trained in nutrition, right? That's just a common. Same thing with veterinarians. They're not trained in nutrition unless they happen to be a veterinary nutritionist, right? So what we saw and what I saw from working with people in having my own studio and training people, I was a trainer, we had programs where I ran and taught groups of 30 women or more on nutrition and personal development and things like that, is that their doctors were telling them different information than what we were learning that was literally coming out in nutritional research, saying, oh, you don't need to do that, et cetera. The same thing can be happening in the veterinary industry. Okay, so if the vets don't know what's happening for some of the new things that could come that can be applied for dogs, they're not referring more healthy foods, right? Because they've been taught, again, same as medical for human, in the veterinary schools, they are sponsored by the large corporations. Those 5 large corporations are running the education of the veterinary system, right? What we needed to do, and what I felt, why don't we make this fully transparent? Why don't we go to each veterinarian and we create nutrition programs? Those nutrition programs are done with dogs, not as beagles in a cage, but they're done with dogs that are living at home. And we can literally vet and watch 12-week programs. We can take the dog off its food that is probably causing its issue. Right. Put it on Virchew, watch, doing blood tests, urinalysis, really simple. Check the body composition, the weight, and we can get the data. You can literally see and get the evidence that we need. Right?
Have you started this process with veterinarians?
Yes, we have.
It's amazing.
And it's really awesome. And I go, why wouldn't we do that? So literally all the veterinarians are involved. They're not sitting in school, or you're not being told by the company, but they're seeing it. They're helping us and their industry to collect the data. I went, why haven't we done that yet? Now, the thing is, humans are harder. 12-week programs are hard to keep humans on because they go and eat ice cream, they drink the beer, and it's fine. I get it. The dogs don't cheat.
Yep.
They can't unless you give them something. So that's why we created treats that match the food so that during the 12 weeks, they're only eating that diet. And that really can make a difference. So we can really see and show the veterinarians at their right at the level that they're working with those dogs. They can see the skin changes, the digestive changes. They can literally see that dog getting better. And of course, some things won't change. We know that. But for the most part, we're seeing some really cool stuff happening. So anyways, that to me, we're missing out.
You're innovating not only in food, but in the marketing and e-commerce side, but you're essentially a new vector, if you will, for health research for animals.
That's exactly. And it's, you know what, Chris, this is not a hard thing.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of putting it together. It's like saying, well, okay, Tesla makes an electric car. We're making a plant-based food that we're going to back up. And that's it. It's a new way of seeing nutrition for dogs that we should be doing, we could be doing. So to me, it was like, let's do this. And this is where we have the space that we can actually do the programs.
You know, I can see one thing that'll likely come out of this with some more work here is that you're going to show all the success with dogs sticking to a healthy diet. And that's going to work its way backwards to humans. And humans can say, well, if I didn't eat at McDonald's and didn't do all these other things, maybe I could get that as well. You
have nailed it. And Chris, ultimately the foundation of why we created this, and particularly for me, if my dog can eat this, why can't I?
Right.
That's exactly the reason. If I do it through the bond of that love I have for that dog, and if I change what's on my plate, right? Because literally we just have to change what's on our plate, and for me in our dog's bowl, we can change our world. Maybe
can you tell our viewers, where would they find you online?
Yes, definitely. So virchew.com, virchew.com. And my own website is laurasimonson.com, laurasimonson.com. And so Virchew, you can pretty much surf around there and learn about, in fact, this is coincidental, Chris, we literally on the weekend just announced a capital round that will be closing on November 30th. So we're doing a capital round to move to the next level of our growth. So that's happening. So you can read about that for accredited investors only. And then becoming a customer. So if somebody wants to get a free sample, we mail it right away or drop it at your house so that you have a free sample. And then from there, you can order a free month. And it's exciting when we meet the dogs and they go crazy over the food. It's a lot of fun to watch it.
That's great. Well, thank you very much for your time today. It's been a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you.
We have Laura Simonson here with Virchew, and you now have all the right contact information to go out there and make your dog one of the happiest ones in North America. Thank you, Laura, and you have a good afternoon.
Chris. Thank you very much. Have a good one.
Thanks for listening to Future Foodcast. Future Foodcast is powered by Farm to Plate, the leading food blockchain platform. Subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts to stay up to date with the very latest innovations in the food industry.